around till 2 o'clock. So I think we'll get underway because we've got a quite an action-packed agenda today. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'd like to start just by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the lands on which we're joining today, here in Meanjin in Brisbane, and acknowledge the Turrbal peoples and pay deep respects to elders past and present. And also, we recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, and community. And I'd also like to extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. I'd also just like to acknowledge lived experience that each of us bring to this space as well and to our work. We know that our work is not just shaped by our roles, but it's also about our own personal journeys and realities of ageing. So we just wanted to honour that wisdom that we bring and our diverse perspectives that strengthen our collective work. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I've also got my colleague Matthew here, and Matthew is supporting the technical side of things today, and will be preparing the minutes for us. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get underway. If those who are joining us, could you just pop in the chat your name, the service, and your location? It just helps us when we are recording who's attended today. But also we've got the department joining us, so then we know who's online. So just your name, the service, and your location would be fantastic. So this is the second community of practice today, and we're joined by Jo McKelvey, from the Department of Family, Seniors, Disability Services and Child Safety. And Jo will be stepping us through reporting 101. We'll also have time for a Q&A. So if you've got any questions as Jo delivers the presentation, pop them in the chat and we'll keep an eye on those. But also you can pop your hand up when we have the Q&A towards the end. We're also joined today by the contract officers. We haven't got everybody here, but quite a few of the contract officers are joining us today. So again, it's a great opportunity for them to introduce themselves. So what I'm going to ask now is I'm just going to get Jo to introduce herself, and then the contract officers that are online already, if you could just say who you are and which service you support in which area, that would be great.
Hi everyone. Oh, sorry. Yeah, hi everyone. It's Jo. I'm part of the Seniors and Carers team. For everyone to probably a bit of an introduction of our Seniors and Carers team. We have 3 teams within our commissioning broader team. I sit within the strategy and reform, and we look after at the age friendly, the Seniors and Carers program, the senior strategy. We also have an engagement team who do all our seniors expos, and hopefully when they're out and about in your regions, you're quite welcome to join. And we also have our carers team who manages the Carers Council and our Time for Grandparents. One of the good things about that not many people know about the Seniors and Carers, we also are an affiliate member of the World Health Organization, which is very exciting and really leans into one of our purposes of being an age-friendly community. So thank you.
Thanks, Jo. Do you want to throw to one of the contract officers and then whoever's online, and then or the next person can just introduce themselves? Michaela, maybe?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Hello, my name's Michaela. I'm a contract officer on the Sunshine Coast. I had about 17 contracts of the seniors, and then we've gone regional. So at the moment, I look after Relationships Australia's seniors program, Noosa Shire Council, and Caloundra Community Centres seniors program.
Thanks, Michaela.
Thank you.
Steffi? I think you're on mute at the moment. You'll need to unmute yourself. We can't hear you, Steffi. Why don't we throw to someone else while you're sorting out your tech? Would anyone else like to go? So I can't see everyone on the screen.
Oh,
So it's
I'll go. Hello, everyone. I'm Belinda, Contract Officer for in Cairns. Sorry, I've got Simon behind me. And I am with Cairns and have a Mutkin, a residential and community care, and the seniors program there at this stage. So I'm pretty new to the team. So hello, everyone.
Thanks, Belinda. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
We can. Thanks,
Oh,
Steffi.
good. All my settings were different. I'm Steffi. I'm in Beenleigh in the Southeast region. I currently only hold one seniors contract. This with Kang, the Older People Action Program. In the Southeast, there's also Angela Caruso. However, she holds the rest of the seniors contracts, but she's not not here today.
Thank you, Steffi. Who'd like to go next?
I will. Hello, everyone. I'm Helen Murray. I'm based in Rockhampton in the Investment Planning and Partnerships team. I'm currently supporting 4 organisations with seniors investment, which goes from Rockhampton and goes a bit rural and remote to Blackall and the Central Highlands.
Thanks, Helen.
Afternoon, Sean here, Wandana Foley from IPP Harvey Bay Hub on the Sunshine and Central Coast region, and one of the services I support is Aldermen's Unlimited, so the acting senior contract officer here. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Nice to meet you.
Hi,
Do we have anyone else
Hannah.
online?
Hi, with the Cairns office. I have one seniors contract with Marlin Coast Neighbourhood Centre.
Thanks, Fatima.
I'll go next. I'm Stacey Appleyard from the Southwest region, and I have Star Community Services senior contract.
Thanks, Stacey.
I'll go next. Hello everyone. I'm Teresa Binoca. I'm also contract officer working with Stacey and Ingrid. Report to Ingrid. I have 9 senior contracts across the Southwest region. Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa.
Hi, I'm Maria O'Brien. I'm from the Brisbane and Moreton Bay region. Contract officer supporting Active 60 and Better, Bribie Island, Seniors Wellbeing Service, which I haven't done yet. It's just that we've lost one of our contract officers, so filling in there. But I also have the Greek Community 60 and Better program, the Wynnum 60 and Better program, and the YMCA Cannon Hill Seniors. Yeah. So
Thanks,
hello
Marie.
everyone.
Nice to meet you.
And
I'll go next.
thank you as well.
Thanks, Marie. I'm on Marie's team. My name's Karen. Just picked up from in the Brisbane Moreton Bay region as well, and picked up a few seniors contracts recently with Caxton Legal Centre, Anala Community House, Multicultural Community Centre, Queensland MedShed, and Queensland Positive People.
Thanks, Karen.
Oh, so I'll jump in. Sorry, my camera's not working, but it's Linda Eggett here. I'm the Principal Contract Officer in the Brisbane Moreton Bay region. And I think I work with Karen and Marie, and we've also got Catherine Burrows and Carla Venning, who are unfortunately unable to join today. But yeah, essentially my team looks after all of those contracts in the Brisbane and Moreton Bay areas.
Thank you, Linda. Thanks for the introduction. Do we have anyone else?
Hello, I'll go. My name is Jade Morris. I'm based in the Cairns office. I work with Padma and Belinda as a contract officer. I've got the one older people program with Murakoska, and that's TI.
Thanks, Jade.
And I'll just introduce myself. I'm Ingrid Powderham. I'm the acting manager of the Southwest team. So I manage Teresa and Stacey and Rebecca, who are online with their contracts, their seniors contracts, as well as the others.
Thanks, Ingrid.
And I'll say hello. My name's Greg. I'm working at QPP. I'm the program manager for the Better Connect Plus piece that Mark is managing, and the Care Finder Aged Care Navigator program that we're doing in consortia with Micah and Communify in the Brisbane area.
Great to meet you, Greg. I think we've only corresponded by email so far.
That's right, yeah.
Anyone else want to just quickly introduce themselves online?
Yes. Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm working in the Southwest, and I have Tara 60 and Better, Charleville and District, Healthy Ageing, and Elder Power.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Hi everyone, my name is Crystal from Thriving Multicultural Communities. I'm the program coordinator, and we're based on the Gold Coast.
Nice to see you online, Crystal.
Hi everyone, I'm Cherie from Harvey Bay 60s and Better, and I've got Jenny with me, who is my administration officer.
Hi Cherie, hi Jenny.
Hi, I'm Wendy. I'm from Wynnum 60 and Better in Brisbane.
Thanks, Wendy.
Hi, sorry.
Sorry.
How are you? I'm Kerry. I'm from the Ipswich 60 and Better program. I'm actually at home at the moment, so I'll go back into invisible mode.
Thanks for joining us, Kerry.
No worries. Bye.
Hi, I'm Nira. I'm the coordinator for the Older Women's Network, here based in New Farm.
Hi, Nira. I think we've got Sherry and Frank online as well. Do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi, Frank Pearce, Queensland Men's Shed Association, delivering in various regions across the state.
Thanks, Frank.
And Jean Williams, Barcools and 60 and Better program here. Happy to see you all again today.
Nice to see you, Jean.
Good.
Hey everyone, my name is Catherine. I work at Kingston is Neighborhood Group. We're based in Logan, and I'm the coordinator for the Healthy Aging Hub program here for seniors.
Hi, Catherine. It's nice to meet you. Have we got anyone else that would like to introduce themselves before we hand over to Joe?
Yeah, hi Karen, it's Sue Evans-Atherton from the Whitsundays here as part of our Social Seniors Whitsundays group.
Nice to see you, Sue.
Nice to see you too, Karen.
It's great to have so many people online today. I think everyone might have said hi. If you haven't, please feel free to pop into the chat and say hello. I should have mentioned, actually, we are recording this session because there were a number of people who weren't able to attend. Hi, Anthony from Tomnet. Great to have you online as well. I might hand over to Joe because I just know we've got a lot to cover. So Joe McKelvey is Principal Advisor, Strategy and Reform, Seniors and Carers at the department. We've already got her PowerPoint presentation online. So I will mute myself now. And Joe, over to you.
Thank you, and welcome again, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to present our SIP Reporting 101 session. Next slide, please. I too like to acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional owners and custodians of this country and recognise their connection to land, wind, water and community. I pay my respects to them, their culture, and to elders past, present and emerging. I'd introduce myself, just a bit of background. I've probably been with the department, I don't know, over 15 years now. I've been in the strategy and reform and in the program space for the last 4 or 5 years. But prior to that, I worked in the regions in contract management. A few people, old teammates online today and some new ones. So yeah, I still remember the first time I went to a service visit. It was an older person's out in D-Bay, Active 60 and Better. And it was just a wonderful experience to actually see what you do out there and engage with the service. So I come from that background. And whilst it's been a long time since I've worked in the contract management space, I think it never leaves you. So we'll continue with the session, and I hope everyone gets something out of it today. Next slide, please. I know reporting can feel overwhelming at times, but it doesn't have to be, and that's exactly why we're here today. We're going to discover why, or we're going to talk about a bit about why we do reporting and why it's important not only to you, but to ourselves, to contract officers, and to, more importantly, to your clients. We're also going to cover off on the accounting rules, the definitions, and talk through some examples, and that's your opportunity. Please feel free to ask as many questions as you can just to help clarify those accounting rules. Hopefully by the end of the session, I hope that everyone has a clearer understanding of the accounting rules, how to collect, count, and report the data with confidence. Next slide, please. First of all, I just want to cover off some background. As you can see, Queensland Government departments spend about $35 billion annually with non-government suppliers. Wow, a lot of public money. So you can, of course, we have to have a legal obligation to obtain value for money from our funded services. So where did this all start? Back in 2014, the Queensland Audit Office, I know it's a long time ago, but it's still relevant, recommended all departments implement an effective performance monitoring framework to ensure value for money from all funded services was achieved. This social investment reform saw some really big changes for us, for services, for everyone, or for all the stakeholders, and including reporting. But what didn't change was our focus on improving the lives of older people in our community. Next slide, please. Before we move into the accounting rules and the definitions, I'd like to talk through some key concepts. And as you go through, hopefully you can draw on these definitions as you see these concepts come up, not only through the accounting rules, but through your funding schedule and in P2I. So the first concept is service activity. A service activity involves the funded service helping a client through a singular or multiple actions aimed at addressing a specific need and furthering that process of assistance. Sounds really formal, but this is what you do. It's an activity, but the important concept to understand, it can be through a singular or multiple actions. The next definition or concept we talk about is funding and classification. Funding is allocated to a service activity, which is described in your funding schedule using the service type classification. You may hear this from your contract officers and refer to it as your T code. A funding schedule may include one or multiple funding service activities. So even here today, you'll have services online that are funded for one service activity, maybe a T317, or they may be funded for 2 or 3. And we'll talk about that further. A really important concept is understanding the primary activity. The primary activity is defined as the core service activity that addresses a specific need and which seeks an achieved outcome. We only count and include, I suppose, in our rules, the primary activity for each service type. But what this does, it provides clarity and it avoids duplication, and this will come clearer as we move through the presentation. Next slide, please. Our first term, let's look at some terms that you will see in your funding schedule and P2I. Look, if you have access to your contract, feel free to grab that. I can pause for a little while if you want to do that and work as we work through these. So the first concept, the first terminology, sorry, is the service type. The service type is the funded service activity that the social isolation program activity. The social isolation program currently has two funded service activities: T317, community support. Sorry for the duplication of wording, but that is the correct terminology. And we also have T325, information, advice and referral. The other funded service is T317 case management, but this only applies to what we call our 3 grandfathered contracts. And I think RAQ is online today. They're an example that is funded for T314. So a little bit more about, I'm just going to briefly talk about the service type. In terms of a community, what do we mean by community support? Look, the older people investment specs, and for some newer contracts, this is outlined in attachment 1 of your funding schedule. The service type is described in more detail. And just to let you know that we are reviewing the older person's investment specs, please don't be alarmed. We're not changing anything. We're just actually giving it a refresh look and giving it a better, making definitions a little bit more clearer. And we will have communication out to everyone in the next couple of months regarding this. But community support generally refers to your social activities. These are the activities that you are funded to deliver in your local community each and every week throughout the contract. T325 is information, advice and referral. So this is where a member of the community or someone or an older person contacts the service or talks to you seeking further information about some help and assistance. They want some advice or they want some referral. So when we go back to the primary activity, you may have an occasion where when you're delivering an activity that you provide information. But let's step back. The primary activity is community support. So the next term is, you'll see, is we use the word service user. And I apologise up front, really government term, service user, but it's your client. It's the older person. It's the person who is receiving the service activity. You'll see in your contract, this is actually coded with a U code 1144. And this is for social isolation. This refers to older people experiencing or at risk of experiencing social isolation. Next slide, please. The next term is a measure category. A measure category is a classification used to group the service activity data. And again, you'll see this in your funding schedule and in P2I. And I'll show you some examples, some screenshots later. We have 5 categories, measure categories. You may not have all these categories listed in your funding schedule. So one category is there's outputs, there's demographic, other, outcomes, and throughputs. So an unusual term, or I would say a very government term, is unit of measure. And you'll see this is defined how we count. So we count by hours, we also count by service users, and we count by number of reports. A measure code is the unique identifier or reference number assigned to your measure. Of course, with any data, it's coded and we use that code, and those codes are universal across Queensland Government social services. So they just are not unique or to senior services. If you receive funding under child safety, under communities, DFV, youth service, you will see those same coding, maybe different numbers, but you'll see that unique identifier for your data. Next slide, please. Here is a screenshot. I've taken this from P2I, and this hopefully can resonate with people when they go, oh, this is what this means. So highlighted in yellow, let's look at the T code. So that's the service code, the T325, and the descriptor is information, advice, and referral. Then you have the U code, which we talked about earlier. That is older people experiencing or at risk of experiencing social isolation. So here highlight, the next highlighted is output. So that's the category. In this example, what the data is counting is the output. You'll see a measure code underneath that, and you'll see here's that unit of measure, which I'm sure most people besides contract officers wouldn't have no clue until today what UOM meant. So hopefully now that's a little bit clearer. The next example is demographic. You'll see, so that's the category. The measure code here you can see is IS205F. It's got a descriptor, name of female users, service users, and the unit of measure is service users. So hopefully this gives you a little bit a clearer understanding what you're reading in P2I when you're reporting and what you are reading in your funding schedule. Any questions at this stage around this? It's a bit dry, this part of the session. Okay, we'll move to what we're all here for is the counting rules. So we're going to just talk through the counting rules as per categories, and please put your hand up or pop something in the chat if you have a question rather than wait to the end. So the measure category here is output, and the unit of measure is hours. So the counting rule is count all hours spent with service users, your clients, and or time spent on behalf of service users, all which can be attributed to a service user to provide the service during the reporting period. So what does this tell us? So what we're counting here is it provides the cost per client. That's the purpose of this counting rule. So when we link that back to the value for money, remembering the concept of value and our legal obligation to attain value money, we have to measure it. One of the measures is cost. How much does it cost per client, per service delivery to get the achieved outcome we want? So a hint here, just to remember, when you're coming to your P2I reporting, report whole numbers in this data point. So for example, if you've got 200 hours and 45 minutes, that equals 201 hours. If you have 2 hours and 10 minutes, that is still 201 hours. So please round up when you're reporting in P2I. It doesn't take minutes. So what's not counted? Of course, we're going to have things that are excluded from counting. So in terms of output hours, what's not counted is team and staff meetings, travel, network meetings where you are not organising or held by you, entering data for reporting purposes, and administrative tasks. So the takeaway here is indirect service delivery activities that do not directly relate to a client or an older person achieving an outcome, we don't count. Can anyone give me any examples of what they do count in hours, for hours? No? Okay, I'll give you some examples. So next slide, please. Can we go to the next slide? Yes. So some example, a worker spends 1 hour delivering a group activity, you count as one. A worker goes on a bus trip with their clients that leaves at 10 a.m. and returns at 3, you count 5 hours. A worker spends 15 minutes speaking to an older person about a query and ringing the older person back, you count 15 minutes. A worker spends 30 minutes compiling data for reporting. Unfortunately, you do not count this. Next slide, please. So hours spent on behalf of a service user. This is really important to actually capture this in your counting. I'm not sure, I'm hoping that everyone is, but just in case you're not. A worker spends an hour attending today. You count that as 1 hour. A worker spends 45 minutes setting up a group activity. You count as 45 minutes. A worker spends planning the next 3 months' activity. This is also counted. I know a lot of people here today develop newsletters. So this is countable hours. It's on behalf of the service user. So it's if you spend 2 hours developing your newsletter, you count as 2 hours. Question I see are what if workers are volunteers? That is a really, really good question. So I understand for the social isolation program, you are able to count volunteers and workers, but in the comments, you are to provide the volunteer hours of how many of those hours are volunteers. And we might explore that a little bit further when we talk in the next slide, when we talk about quality versus quantity. So the last two, on behalf of, when a worker is travelling to a planned activity with our clients, you do not count. Another example is, like I mentioned before, I think I'm probably just reinstating what you do not count in report collecting data. I think it's just one of the questions we get asked a lot, so that's why I'm repeating. The question is, can you also count updating the services websites with activities? And yes, absolutely. It's direct service. That's information. That's how you're promoting your service. So absolutely. Are committee meetings counted? Unfortunately not. Committee meetings are part of your organisational function, yet we're funding the service. Are you looking for itemised account of hours? No, we just want the total figure. We like to keep it simple. Again, it's just about attributing our cost, that's our dollars, towards what is an accountable item, which in our case is hours. Obviously, if you're building a house, you're building a government department's building a road, you can count how many, barrels of concrete and how many barrels of gravel you use, and how many hours it took for them to lay that road. We in social services, that what we can contribute to, I suppose, our delivering social service is hours that staff are delivering service activities to clients. I want to recap just when you are counting on behalf of service users and counting hours in terms of for user is that primary concept. You're only counting once. So please remember, if you're delivering an information session, you're only counting that as community support. Yes, it is delivering information, but it's not information, advice and referral. The core or the primary activity is a group activity, and the subject is providing community information. Can you count training that is specific for supporting people? Absolutely. So again, really good way to I think I've always rationalised it, and I've probably have explained it to the contracts I've managed in the past over the years. If you can attribute anything to an outcome of a client through direct service delivery, it's counted. If it's what's indirect, are all those tasks we do as workers and as volunteers behind the scenes that really doesn't relate to the service, like, doing admin, working out your wages, paying your staff, or doing your BAS and all that is not direct service delivery, and that's not what we account in our costing tool. Okay. Our support groups referrals a referral service. Wendy, can you explain a little bit further what you mean by that question? No? We can come back to it if you like. Next slide, please.
Sorry, I can't.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to work
Yeah.
my tech.
Sorry, that's okay.
Yeah, we have like a few things that we do. Like one example is a carers support group. So we have a qualified counsellor who volunteers for that, and we have a group of our seniors who are also carers, usually for their partner. and they meet once a month for a few hours. And I just don't know if that's regarded as a referral service, which would be supplied by a volunteer, not by myself.
Okay, the first question for you is, what service types are you funded under?
So we're funded under both the referral service and the social isolation.
So yes, community support and information, advice and referral?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So again, I would see that as community support. Yes, because it's a group activity. Information, advice and referral, I kind of like put it in a framework that it's a reactive response. Someone's coming to you and seeking your advice or information from your service as the expert, or referral, or you're the only service in your local community, which sometimes can happen. So hence everyone comes to you. That it's a reactive process, whereas community support is proactive. You're actually out there, you're proactively getting delivering services in the community to achieve an outcome.
Okay. What about when people come and they want tech support to learn how to use their mobile phones and that sort of thing? And then we also get a volunteer in here who one-on-one will help them and show them how to use their mobile phones, for example.
Yes. So one of the key things that you mentioned, so first of all, you planned an activity for that to happen. So yeah, absolutely.
So
because
is that
coming from the first interaction, you would say, well, someone's seeking information, advice, but as a service, you see an opportunity to help this person. So you plan that activity to provide that support.
Yep, and the volunteer comes to my office and provides that here. And is that counted as a referral service or as a social service or a community support service?
So that's community. It's still community support. It doesn't matter who's delivering the service. It's the service activity. So whether you get in a guest speaker, if it's yourself delivering it, if it's a member, even today, like inviting myself to the department, CODA in their service agreement. Even though I'm delivering the service, they've planned the activity.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I don't know. It's really hard to understand. And also then we have another volunteer who comes in and provides one-on-one help for like my aged care, people who are registered with my aged care and who are having trouble getting that service. So she helps them. She's from that sector as well. And is that, again, a community support rather than a referral? I would have thought it was a referral.
So really good question. I'm glad you bring it up. My aged care is funded federally. It's not part of our service delivery. So in terms, part of, social isolation. So you think about the objective of our funding is to socially connect older people, to improve their social connectedness. Helping someone with my aged care, which is funded under the federal, is a different program.
And it's not a referral service that we're providing to give that person that support.
You're not. When it comes to information, advice, and referral, the referral it's a really good opportunity to remind people of the QCOS guidelines for social isolation. Good practice is they talk. A referral is a warm referral. So a referral is when, say, I come to you, I need some help with, finding a support group. I'll use a very common one is that I've come to an activity and you as the worker identify that the person probably has some help some help or some needs regarding their health, and you encourage that person to go and seek some health advice, and it could be around anything. You would make a warm referral. You could assist that person to set up a referral so that person then goes to that service to get help. That's what a referral is. So we don't fund referral services, we fund you to do referrals. Is that clearer? Any other questions? Can I count recording notes?
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just thinking about like the My Aged Care sector. So if a client comes in, you know, if you meet a client and they want to access social groups, but their barrier is the transport.
Yeah.
If you like, and when speaking with them, you know that you could help them get transport through their aged care to access the social like groups. How does that fit? Like,
so really, it's probably something to really kind of like have a discussion further outside this, because I think it's a really big. I know the services are out there, and it's not just our older, you know, our social isolation service, our community centres, our neighbourhood centres are getting a lot of queries. Even our SLAS services are getting a lot of queries around My Aged Care. That's federally funded who provide that service to help people into My Aged Care. Obviously, it's not meeting what it's expected to meet. That's outside our control, and therefore, if you were to run an activity to target that challenge, I think that falls under community support. But information advice, if someone's coming to you to seek information, advice, and referral, you would be providing the advice how to do it and the referral to the service to help that person do it. Does that help? I think it's a really big grey area that we probably need to talk about. Because it's an increasing demand, especially as we've got an aging population, but also as the funded services are really stretched, and I've been hearing that feedback for at least 4 to 5 years, that people can't get help accessing My Aged Care. I've even experienced that with my own parents. I'm lucky. I've probably been fortunate and have a lot of knowledge due to my role here. So I've been able to help them navigate the system. But that doesn't, the majority of older people don't have, they might have family and friends, but those family and friends do not have that expertise. So hence they're coming to you as your local service. Absolutely acknowledge that. And I think, I'll take that on notice, because when we are doing new counting rules, I'll make sure we include a really specific example around the My Aged Care and how to count and when you can include it and what's not included.
Okay.
So, no worries. So, yeah, I agree, Kerry. That is so true. With changes to the Aged Care Act, it is becoming really difficult for people to get help. And I think it's wonderful, again, just reinstating, it's wonderful that older people are coming to you, because that means that they know that your service is there to help, and that is a real big tick for us. The one thing I want to really just briefly touch on is quality versus quantity. Achieving value for money requires a balance between cost, quality, and quantity. And I really want services to really understand it's not always about, and it shouldn't be about, quantity. Just because something is the cheapest or has the biggest quantity doesn't always translate to the best quality. I've always been told that. My adult children remind me constantly, stop getting on Temu. So it's the same with your services. Value for money represents what delivers the best outcome for your older people. So if you're delivering, 1,000 hours to 1,000 clients, that comes out to $1, that cost $1, because we divide the clients by the dollars. That I can tell you now, our cost per hour is at least 3 figures. So $1 would straight away point to me, and as a contract officer, and those are online, would probably ask the question, well, what type of quality are you providing if it's only costing $1? So we want older people to feel supported, connected, and cared for. The outcome for older people is key to the focus of our funding. So I notice that we've just got 15 minutes to go. Next slide. So we're just getting to, next slide, please. So feedback from contract management, this is the most frequently asked question and the reason for resubmission. So the different counting output service users, counting instances versus counting unique. And I please apologise straight up to say this is confusing, and we understand it's confusing. So hopefully today we can kind of like clear some of that confusion up. Counting instances. You count each instance of service delivery, regardless of whether the service was provided to the same older person or to the different older people. The data reflects the number of services delivered to older people during the reporting period. So this counting rule applies to the output. Just remember the output of service users for community support and information advice and referral. So simply put, we're counting every time a client attends an activity during that reporting period. Next slide, please. So here's some examples. If an older person attends 5 times during the reporting period, you count as 5. If 10 people attend 3 sessions, that equals 30. In regard to the bus trips, and I know they're fabulous, if 13 people go on 3 bus trips, whilst on the bus trip to the local park, they also participate in craft and yoga. Huge day for the older person. Wonderful. You count as 39 because the primary activity is the bus trip, and the auxiliary activities within that bus trip are the craft and the yoga. So it's just the bus trip you're counting. Another example is 10 older people attend 2 information sessions where we talked about these. You count 20 under T317 because that's the primary activity. So let's move on to unique. You count unique older people who receive a service is counted, regardless of how many times they accessed the service. The data reflects the distinct individuals who received a service. So the counting rule applies to the measure category of output for T314. So that's only for those 3 contracts that have T314. So, and again, apologise that there's different counting rules for 317 and 314 and 325. But all the other category measures for all service types are unique. For example, 1 older person receives services 5 times, they're counted as 1 unique service user. So and again, 10 people each receive, using the same example, it receives 3 times. 10 people each receive 3 services. The total count would still be 10. Next slide, please. Demographic data. The purpose of demographic data is to collect information about the characteristics of a service user. So you can see why we are just counting unique clients or unique service users when we're counting demographic data, because it enables the organisations and the department understand the populations, understand the current needs, anticipate future challenges, and ensure services, and this is the most important aspect of demographic data, ensure services are inclusive and impactful. Some of the questions contract officers and us as the program area may ask when we're looking at your data, are the services reaching everyone, particularly marginalised or disadvantaged groups? Are there any emerging trends and challenges you're seeing as the ageing population? Because we know through ABS data where our ageing populations are really skyrocketing and where there is just normal growth. So just again, reinstating count unique. Why? Because we want to know those characteristics of those service users. Can I clarify that you're not wanting to know how many different activities they attend, just each occasion? Is that back in terms of the output, Kerry? I'll just next
Sorry.
slide, please.
Yes, sorry.
Yep.
Yes, because what you were just talking about, and I have to ask it now, but
Yeah, absolutely.
my interpretation of it is this is just doing my head in.
I agree.
So for example, I'll use 3 different names, no one in particular, Fred, Mary and Joe. Fred might come to, this week he's come to table tennis once, he's gone to indoor bowling once, he's gone to, and he's come into the office and he's had a chat about some things he's had concern on. So it's the same person attending each of those activities. So do we count the amount of hours that he's received those activities, or do we count the occasions that he's come in, or do we separate them out?
So lucky I know your service and I know your contract,
Yes.
Kerry. So that's a good question because I don't have to ask you what you're going to is. Yes. So hours is your hours.
Yes.
When you count hours is your hours, no matter what. It's all your hours you're working or giving up your time as a volunteer for that service. In terms of the service output service use, your client count, you're counting each occasion. Because T317 and T325 are each time. So he got 3 on 3 occasions he received. So that's 3 clients. So that is 3. So when it comes to counting his characteristics, you're just counting him once.
Yes, which is what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I got a sense that it was not the right thing with the way it's all been written.
I apologise but that's a good way to kind of like explain it is, and it depends. People collect their data either in sophisticated client management systems, or I've seen people just use clickers, or they have an Excel spreadsheet. So depending on that, the way you count, the rationale is still the same. If you're using the clicker, every time someone walks in the door, you're clicking the button. The same is if you're using a spreadsheet and you have your list of members. I imagine your members that are down one column, and across the rows you have all the services they attend.
Yeah. So we use attendance sheets and then manual
attendance sheets. So you're just counting, which is like the clicker. You're just counting all those attendees.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of like simple way I probably have I try to explain it. But when it comes to demographic data, you're just counting your member, your client, because we want to know what that data represents as part of the population. And ABS, so when you're looking at ABS data, you're just looking at a unique person.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. So so here's some demographic data. So an example, just going on about the example. So a number of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander can evidence inclusive service delivery. On the other hand, it can also identify risk that service delivery may not be being delivered in a culturally appropriate manner. So there's room, because it's lower than the average of older people in your community. So this is not I want to really reinstate that this is not about compliance. This is about supporting you to think outside the square, so to speak, and think about the broader community, and perhaps introducing, touching base with the local Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community and find out what works for them and introducing that into your service. And that's the same as we know older people over 75 are more vulnerable and they face increased socialisation. So if there's low counts of numbers in your data compared to your population, a contract officer and yourself, as well as us, we may want to talk to you, but support you on how to think about what you can do for that cohort. Next slide, please. And I do understand we are coming to almost 3 o'clock. Outcomes. An outcome is a measurable change or benefit that impacts and occurs because of service activity. It reflects the difference you make to that older person. A really valuable, I find, data that really contextualizes what it means to deliver a service to older people. Here again, you're counting unique and going back from the demographic because we want to know that unique characteristics. What has your service done for that individual? It's outcomes are just a great way to show or demonstrate your positive impact you're having on your services, having on older people. Next slide, please. So in the counting rule, it mentioned assessment tool. Please don't be frightened that if you don't have one, because I think majority of you, if not everyone, are already doing things that you may not be realised that is an assessment tool. So, for example, self-reported feedback. You ask your surveys, interviews, focus groups. You ask those questions. Do you feel more connected? Just your simple observations as a worker. You'll see those changes. I know I've heard from the services I've managed in the past. They tell stories of how, someone starts in a group and they're shy, they're hardly engaged, and then within 12 months or 6 months, they're coming every day. They're forming connections. They actually form connections even outside your service, which is wonderful. Another, as Kerry mentions, is attendance records, a great way to track outcomes. For example, someone who initially attended once is now attending every session. That is, without even having an assessment tool, that is demonstrating that you've achieved an outcome. The impact of your service on the older person, they're more socially connected. Final tips. Next slide, please. As outlined in item 7 of your funding schedule, you're contractually obligated to collect, document and provide data to us. Please ensure that only data directly related to your funded service activity is reported, and we did cover off on a bit of that, and I will take on notice, more needs to be explored around my aged care. Do not include data that's outside the scope of your funded service activity. This is more related if you're funded across the department in different streams. You may be funded under community services to deliver very similar activity, but you're also, communities. You may be funded under the seniors and carers stream to do something very similar. It's really important that you don't duplicate or merge the data across that reporting. And the last point is count all services who received a service during the reporting, regardless of where they reside. It is really acknowledging, especially in the regional and remote areas, that you may be the closest or the only service in their local area that is 200 kilometres away, and it's not contained within your geographical catchment. But if you're providing a service to that elder person, please count that. We don't advocate that you actually promote your service outside your geographical catchment, but we certainly will probably having a few words if you don't deliver a service to someone who reaches out for help if they're outside your geographical catchment area, because there's many reasons why they contact you. They might be comfortable. They might go along with a friend. There is so many reasons why they are coming to you. So please count that in your data. Next slide, please. So any questions? So hopefully we've answered, I've answered as we go, but if anyone has any other questions, please feel free to put your hand or pop in the chat.
Jo,
So,
I just had a question. I've had a few people in our local community lately who are not in that 60 plus age range. They're a little bit younger, in the 50s, and they are actually, but they're socialising with people who are in their 60s and 70s, 80s, etc. And they're retired, usually due to a disability, etc. And I'm just wondering, because I keep asking, can I come along to your sessions?
Yeah.
So it's not many, it's just a few, but I was just wondering about, capturing those people and reporting back to government that there's those situations where people might not fit that demographic, but are obviously requiring that service.
Look, I agree, and this has come out. I think probably first 2 years I was actually managing a senior service. Exactly that absolutely. You're going to have people with disabilities that actually may even be in an aged care home, and so it shouldn't exclude them. I think that's we really talk about when we talked about outcomes and demographics is about excluding people. We want services to be inclusive of the local community. And yes, we do fund our services is targeted at 60 years and older, and for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders at 50. But if a person is seeking your assistance, absolutely, and you provide that assistance with our funding, you should be counting that for sure.
Okay. Yeah, great. Thanks, Jo.
Not a problem. Yeah, so one last, can you confirm volunteer hours spent preparing? Yeah, look, I believe that has been agreed that you can count volunteer hours in terms of the social isolation service. I just really want to be mindful and bring you back to that quality versus quantity, because we know services right across the social services sector use volunteers, and honestly, we wouldn't have services without volunteers. Our costing relates to paid workers. That's how our costing model is worked on. That's how value for money is associated with a worker. So absolutely, you're allowed to count volunteer hours, but I think it's a nice balance to ensure that it does reflect the service delivery and not, because I know some services have a coordinator and they might have 10 volunteers as well. So it's really finding that balance. Any other questions? I see we're 1 minute past, so I just want to. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Jo. Just in relation to those volunteer hours. So, in the GM, is that 116 report? Yeah, yes, the GM, the qualitative reporting. I've generally put a table and put those volunteer hours there. But are you suggesting we put those in the actual P2I, those that quantitative, in those quantitative sections?
I'm not. My preference is that business as usual. Don't change the way you're counting.
Okay.
It has come up where some of our lower funded services actually don't use paid workers. So that's where the volunteering question has arisen, is where there is that the level of funding doesn't, there's not enough funding in this contract to employ a person. So, or their choice is not to employ a person. So that's where the volunteers are coming into it. So that's where that balance is. So please, I keep doing what you're doing. Your contract officers will be the first people to discuss that further with you. But yeah, definitely important in terms of data collection and analysing data, apples with apples, oranges with oranges. When you start changing the way you count, without, I suppose, having a discussion with us first, it can misrepresent the data. So, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Not a problem. Okay. I'll just wind up. Firstly, I want to acknowledge and express our appreciation to all the work you do for older people in your local community. It's just unappreciated sometimes in terms of the dollar value, the mention in the media. We're in a large department, and often our older people, we struggle even ourselves as a commissioning area to get, hi, I'm here, so to speak. But so well done. I also want to give a big shout out to CODA and our contract officers who are always here to support you. Please reach out and invite them along for a visit. It's really important to build a productive working relationship with, both CODA as your peak organisation and your contract officer. as they're always here to support you achieve your outcomes for older people. And lastly, thank you, Karen, for the invite. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And please share your learnings with other services to help improve their confidence. And I think that's what the community of practice is all about, is about helping each other, lifting our own confidence and our own capabilities. So thank you.
Thank you, Jo. That's a great wrap up there. Thank you for coming along today and sharing all of your knowledge. We will do our best to try and, you've covered a lot of ground today. We'll try and summarize some of the key points in the minutes, and where there was Q&As, we'll try and put that detail in with the Q&A. So that's a bit of a, and we can probably add some of those to our the new online hub as well, where all the providers can access that information. I will mention that there might be pressing questions that people have got. If that's the case, do you want to shoot those through to me and I'll collate them? And Jo, we can connect. And if there's any questions that have gone unanswered, because I'm sure it's, there's a lot of information to absorb. It might be, let's go away and think about this more. And then, so please send your questions to me. I'll pull them together. Our next session is on Thursday, the 30th of April. It's a connect and share session for everybody. And it's just an opportunity. It's a follow on from this session. It's data collection and reporting in practice. So I'll try, and if we can do that within the time, Jo, I can then maybe take those answers to any questions back to that meeting and share those. And then everyone can come together and share their experiences and maybe just share some best practices and share your knowledge. But thank you, everybody. It's been a great turnout today. I hope you've all found it useful. Great to see everybody. Yes, as Jo said, please reach out if you want to use me as a sounding board or you're not sure about anything. Please feel free to give me a call. I work Mondays to Thursdays. And we will aim to get the notes and the recording up online on the new hub within the next couple of weeks. And when that happens, I'll send you all an email and let you know it's there. And it's great, Jo, it's great to meet you, but it's also great to connect with all the contract officers as well today and the providers who I haven't met before. And I look forward to ongoing conversations and working together with everybody. So thank you. See you all next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank